I think my friend poisoned me and wants to eat me. I know this sub is usually just for scary stories and encounters, but I could really use some advice too, and I didn't know where else to post, and feel this suits this sub best. I have had this friend who I've known for many years, but was never close to. Recently, coming back from university for summer, I went back home and stayed with my parents. There isn't much to do in my hometown except for hang out with friends and smoke or drink, so that's exactly what I did. While hanging out with my friends, I ran into the guy, let's call him Soph. Soph has always seemed like a chill guy, typical 19-year-old man who studies business, living off of daddy's money since he comes from a wealthy family. As soon as we reconnected, we developed a closer friendship. He started hosting at his house and my friends and I would go. When we smoked, he frequently brought up his fantasies of killing and eating someone. Of course, all of us being high would just laugh it off and considered it to be shock humor. However, he would never laugh while making these jokes. We, my friends, had agreed he was pretty creepy, but we chalked it up to him just being too high. That is until I started hanging out with him alone. We have a pretty small friend group that hangs out nearly every day. Soph and I stay up pretty late after everyone's left, usually until the sun comes up, which is how we got so close, because it would just be us at the end of the night and he would drive me home. On one of those nights we were with a group of friends and decided we would all take edibles. For context, we were at Soph's house. 3 hours into it, when all of us are pretty gone, Soph starts going on a tangent about how it would feel to pluck someone's eyeballs out. He starts going into detail and my other friend asked him to stop talking because it was making him uncomfortable. He always did this, but this time he really went into detail, explaining imagery. Someone quickly changed the subject and the night went on. About an hour later, my friend and I decided to look at the fridge for the munchies. As we look in the fridge for shit to eat, I feel someone put their arm around my neck, and I feel something quite heavy putting pressure on it. And as I look down, I realize Soph is holding a knife to my neck and holding my other friend with his other free hand. "What are you guys doing?" he asks. Keep in mind, we are all very high, so I start laughing it off and going along with what I thought was a joke. As my friend and I answer him, I realize he still hasn't pulled the knife off my neck, and that he was in fact holding it closer, to the point where I started to cough. Thankfully the knife was quite dull, but it was still a massive kitchen knife. As soon as I realize he isn't letting go, I let out a scream, nothing too loud or alarming. I was hoping he would also assume I was joking. He then lets go and walks away. The night goes on and we quickly forget about what happened. Soph offers to drive my friend and I home at the end of the night when everyone's left. My friend and I didn't have a car or money, so we accepted. On the drive home, stopped at a red light, he made my friend get out and check if the car was damaged because he had seen someone bump it while driving. Neither my friend nor I saw this, but my friend got out the car anyway and checks. As he tries to open the back door to get in the car again, Soph locks it. The light has now turned green and thank God it was only 5 a.m. because there were only 2 or 3 other cars around, but they all started beeping and swerving as to not hit the car or my friend. As my friend and I are yelling for him to open the door, he drives a couple inches forward, putting the tire on my friend's foot. He then unlocks the door and watches my friend yell at him for being trapped under the tire. I look over to Soph, and I see him hysterically laughing and putting the car in reverse for my friend to get in. Once we get back onto the road, he starts driving like crazy, which isn't unusual for him, but he was a lot more reckless that morning. Now, before you all judge me for staying friends with such a weird and dangerous man, keep in mind it had never been this bad before. He just said really weird shit every now and then, but I honestly thought it was an intrusive thoughts thing. I struggle with mental health and have the most vile and weird intrusive thoughts, so I thought that was it. And as for the night I have mentioned, we were all really high on edibles, so although I was very weirded out, I thought he must have just been super high, and so was I, so I convinced myself I was overreacting. Then one night we go to a party together. We then got back in the car for an after party, but on the way realized it had been cancelled. Soph then asked me if I wanted to go back to his house, eat something, watch a movie and smoke. It was still really early in the night, so I agreed, knowing I wouldn't be asleep for a while. We pull up, he tells me to make myself comfortable and he's going to cook us some pasta, so I sit down, turn on a movie and wait. He comes back out with the pasta and I eat almost all of it, and a few minutes into the movie, I start feeling very ill. I mention this to Soph and he says it's probably just because I drank, but I only drank very little at the party, which was around 3 hours ago at this point, and haven't thrown up or felt nauseous from alcohol in years. As time goes on I keep feeling worse and practically beg him to take me home. He refuses because he is in his house. However, this is the first time he's declined taking me home. At this point I get a really bad feeling along with the sickness, and my body decided I had to get out of there. I thankfully had some money with me, so I ordered a cab and went home. In the cab on the way home I started vomiting out the window because of how much pain my stomach was in. I get home and I just collapse, but I am unable to fall asleep because of how much pain I am in. Then I start thinking about all the times he's mentioned the desire to kill someone and eat them. He always talked about how he would eat a girl's thigh because he believes it would be the juiciest. How he would only eat a girl and not a boy. Since that day I've kept my distance, but I've been fighting with myself internally, asking, did I get poisoned or did I just drink too much? Is he a psychopath or just a little weird? I truly don't know, so please any advice is appreciated. As I've mentioned, I've been friends with him for years and developed a close relationship, and I do love him as a friend, just not enough to get eaten. I met my boyfriend's ex and I want them back together. I have been with my boyfriend for nearly a year now. Let's call him Danny, and he never talks or nearly touches the topic about his ex-wife, Mare, to me. The only thing I know about them is that they have a 5-year-old son whom he visits or brings to his home every weekend. His son graduated from daycare recently and Mare invited him for dinner as it is the request of their child. Danny asked me to come, although I hesitated at first, he insisted on bringing me. Saturday came and we went to Mare's house for dinner. I expected her to be a female dog to me, but she welcomed us warmly. She's casual and very polite and even introduced me to their child. Her house is very welcoming, clean, and smells fragrant. It's home. I asked her if I could do something to help her prepare the dinner while their child and Danny are playing. She told me she can manage and told me to go ahead and bond with the boys. We had dinner and she and Danny were very casual. Not too friendly, but not too salty. They're not distant either. Mare didn't say something that would make me uncomfortable, but rather ask questions about me and anything you could talk about during a first meeting. I know she's a good mother as their son, Ian, is very polite, giggly, and behaved. I noticed how both of them will answer every question Ian asks even if it's a silly question. I also noticed how Danny looked at Mare. There's sadness and love. I know it as he never looks at me that way. When we're about to go home, Mare packed me some food when I mentioned I live alone and always eat takeaways. This really touched my heart. I've been keeping it inside me, but I could no longer keep it and asked Danny how things ended when he had such a beautiful wife and a playful and well-mannered son. Danny pulled over and I thought he'd want me out of the car, but he started to tell me that he cheated on her while she's out of the country burying her dead mother. The girl he slept with happened to be a mutual friend and secretly filmed them having sex and sent it to Mare. When Mare went home, she calmly told Danny she knew it and slept in Ian's room. He didn't hear a word from her, a single cuss, or anything hurtful. She just flatly said, "Serve the divorce papers and I'll sign it. Just make sure I have sole custody and you have visitation days." Danny told me how he tried to stop her, but she didn't say a single word and completely shut him out. A night before he left the house, he heard Mare crying and wanted to comfort her, but afraid he'd make things worse for her. Danny hated himself that he never had the chance to comfort her while she grieved for her mom, and instead cheated on her. He said Mare is too good to be true, but that is who she really is. Always available for her family and friends and even to his family and friends. She would cook for his friends while they watch football and have beer together. Visits his mom and dad, and bake cookies for them. Babysits his nephews and she never once complains about taking care of Ian. She never nags at Danny and is very patient about everything. This is the first time I saw him cry. He's a big man and he's sobbing uncontrollably. He's apologizing to me and told me he likes me and didn't use me to move on. This whole revelation didn't make me think that I'm being used. I felt his pain and I felt his love for his family. I asked him why he cheated and he said he's drunk and didn't even know it happened. After that night, he's still the same, but I am not. I felt like I was in the way. Mare is still single. She mentioned that she wanted to focus on raising Ian and pursuing her law studies. I love Danny, but I cannot compete with Mare. Should I break up with him and help him get back together with Mare? I think my boyfriend is lying about his divorce. His ex-wife is a little too close. My boyfriend and I have been together for 5 years. We met online, something I had never thought I would try, but at the time, I had been single for many years and my sister had recommended it to me. I was reluctant at first. She kept telling me how she had found many dates through this website and that it would be perfect for me as I'm always busy working so I could just use it in my free time or only when I felt like it. Anyway, one night over dinner she told me about this man she had recently met through the website and how perfect he was for her and how she could see a future with him. So I gave in. I gave it a try, not expecting to actually find someone, but when I matched with Carl, we hit it off instantly. He was so funny and charming, so we exchanged numbers and then agreed to meet for coffee the following week. When we met for coffee that day, Carl told me that he had just gotten a divorce from his wife of many years who he has one daughter with. I was fine with this. I'm not really the jealous type of person and he had assured me that he was ready to move on and that their relationship had been dying for ages. The first date went well and after a few more successful dates, he asked me to be his girlfriend. I was over the moon as I really liked Carl. I have always been very passionate about my work. I'm a nurse, so my job is very demanding and intensive, which means I work most nights during the week, but still, I wouldn't change it for the world. I thought this may be a problem with Carl when we first started dating, as I wouldn't be available most nights and during the day after working a shift, I would be catching up on sleep and therefore, not available to see him or talk to him. However, this was not the case. Carl thought it was perfect as he told me that he had a very busy schedule too with his work, business appointments and making time to see his daughter. Carl told me that he was always free on a Tuesday, which happened to align perfectly with my work schedule as I didn't work on Monday or Tuesday nights. He started coming over to my house every single Tuesday, pretty much every single week since, and that was 5 years ago. Here's where it starts to get a little bit weird though. Since we agreed to see each other on Tuesdays, Carl has come to my house every single Tuesday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. but refuses to see me any other day and out of that time frame. He has always arrived perfectly on time at 11 a.m. and always left promptly at 3 p.m., no exceptions. As well as this, every single time he comes over, he brings this tiny, dirty chihuahua along with him. Well, last week, I found out that this dog he has been bringing belongs to his ex-wife. His excuse for this was that he likes taking the dog on walks and they do 10 miles of walking every day together, but he works too much to commit to getting a dog for himself. I found this to be really odd, but I didn't question him about it any further. I know 10 miles might seem like a lot to walk the dog every day, and to be honest, I don't quite believe it myself, but I know that he does walk the dog regularly, as every Wednesday and Thursday he calls me whilst he walks the dog. This is always between 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. with, again, no exceptions. He always ends the call at exactly 6:30 and always calls at exactly 4. Anyways, a couple years ago I got the dreaded call that my dad died. I was absolutely distraught as he was my biggest supporter and was always there for me. I asked Carl if he would come to the funeral with me, but he refused as the funeral was being held on a Sunday and not during his allotted time to see me, Tuesdays 11 a.m. 3 p.m. Of course I was upset by this, but eventually, I convinced myself that he was probably just busy. Fast forward another year, I had become very sick and I had ended up in hospital. It was so serious that the doctors had told me I would have died had I waited another day to seek medical help. I called Carl in despair and asked if he would bring me some clothes I had at home and drop them off at the hospital. Carl refused because I had asked him on a Saturday and not on a Tuesday. I was in so much pain, I was in the hospital for months. I constantly begged Carl to see me and again, he refused unless it was on a Tuesday. The final reason that made me think my boyfriend may be cheating on me with his ex-wife was last month at his daughter's wedding. The wedding was to be held in Italy and the plan was for Carl and his ex-wife to fly out there together 4 days before the wedding and for me to fly out by myself a day before the wedding. Carl's daughter had rented out a huge, luxurious villa for close family and friends to stay in before and after the wedding. I thought this was perfect. I have never spent the night with Carl, so I thought us sharing a bed would be a huge turning point in our relationship. That was until I found out that Carl and his ex-wife would be sleeping in the villa and I would be sleeping in a converted barn by myself at the bottom of the villa garden. I asked Carl if I could please sleep in the villa with him, but he refused, so I refused to go to the wedding and stay home. On top of this, I have never been to Carl's house. In fact, I don't even know where he lives and he has blocked me on all of his social media. I can only contact him on WhatsApp. I think Carl may have been lying to me when we first met about his divorce to his wife. I'm starting to get the impression that he is actually having an affair with me and cheating on his wife. He's so secretive with me and appears to still have a lot of contact with her. Or maybe they decided to rekindle their relationship after their divorce? Or maybe I'm overthinking and they are just really close friends. I mean, they do have a daughter together. So Reddit, am I being crazy? What should I do? Editor's thoughts: this girl is dumb as hell. How would you not suspect your boyfriend is cheating on you after 5 years of seeing him only 1 day a week? Lamau. You don't even know where he lives, and you're coming to Reddit for help? I swear some people are dumber than a box of rocks.